and sorry I'm not visible. I'm a sort of disembodied voice today. But this is Mohini Khoth welcoming you all to the book club to discuss. We are fortunate enough to have the author, Soma Chatterjee, with us. And well, over to you, Latika,
Thank
over
you.
to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So good evening, everybody, all members of the book club and guests who have desired to join. Welcome to all of you. And I want to say a very special welcome to Soma Chatterjee, our guest for this evening, who has so kindly agreed to bring the great Satyajit Ray into our hearts today. Shoma, I can't tell you how many sessions, exactly how many sessions of the book club we've had. We started this online book club during COVID, but we were not online before that. So in the last 3 years, we've had over 120 or 130 sessions of the book club. So we have been very, very regular, and everyone who's with us has gone along and been very regular with us also. I must tell everybody that I've rarely met anyone so prolific as Soma Chatterjee. So it's really a privilege to have you with us today, Soma. She's been a freelance journalist and a film critic for over 47 years. And in these 47 years, she has authored 30 books, 30 titles at least, if I'm not mistaken. Of these, 16 books are on film studies, including on personalities, film personalities such as Ritvik Ghatak, Mrinal Sen, Aparna Sen, Suchitra Sen, P.C. Barua, Bimal Roy, and so on, the great names of Bengali cinema. She has also authored a book on urban planning. She has also translated a book of short stories from Bengali into English. And she has written 8 books, if I'm not mistaken, on gender issues. All these books are intensely researched. Hence, you can see that writing and research have really been taken up all her life, have been part of her life in a very, very intense way. It's also wonderful to tell you that Soma is a multiple award winner. She first of all won the National Award for Best Film Critic way back in 1991. In 2003, she won an award for the best book on cinema. This was a book on Aparna Sen. Then there was the Sahitya Academy Award, Sahitya Academy's Golden Jubilee Translation Contest. And she won the second prize for the translation of the book called The Search, which was done by Sri Sendu Mukhopadhyay. All this apart from the fact that she's had a fellowship from the National Film Archive of India for research on male directors' perspectives of women through their films. She's also had fellowships from PSBT, Public Service Broadcasting Trust. She has had a fellowship from ICSSR, Indian Council for Social Science Research, and several Lifetime Achievement Awards for her contribution to journalism in the fields of gender and cinema. So what more can I say, Shoma? Shoma, what more can I say? Should I halt here? All I can say is that I'm very, very privileged to know you, and a warm welcome. Now, before I hand it over to Shoma, I just want to say one word, and a very general word, because the more particular the word, the more particular things about Satyajit Ray, I leave to Shoma to say. In very general terms, I would just want to tell you, so Satyajit Ray was one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. He was a winner of the Dada Saheb Phalke Award. He was conferred the Bharat Ratna. He was multifaceted in every way. He made about 36 films, including documentaries and shorts. And he really put India on the world map. Many of his films may be known to you. The Apu trilogy, I'm sure all of you know. The Music Room, Charulata, Mahanagar, The Chess Players, Shaka Proshaka. I mean, there are many. I just named a few. What made him very, very important was his versatility. He was very versatile. I would say that possibly no other director was as versatile as him, because no other director I know of was more personally responsible for everything that he did in his films. He wrote his scripts solo. He designed the sets, the costumes down to the smallest detail. He acted out the roles for his characters also. Often he operated the camera. He did the storyboarding. He did the editing, frame by frame, each frame. Not initially, but later on, he composed the music for his films. He designed the posters. All of this is truly quite rare, very, very uncommon. Now, several books have been written on Satyajit Ray in English, in Bengali, and so on. But Soma's book, From Frame to Frame, is an exploration of the relatively invisible areas and recurring themes which she has discovered in Satyajit Ray's films. Most of these themes have not been focused on before. They are hunger, mainstreaming of prostitution, masculinity, femininity, and so on. Soma also had the privilege of knowing Satyajit Ray. So I invite Soma to say a few words about Satyajit Ray. We can have the next slide also of Satyajit Ray. And Soma, would you like to speak a little bit about Satyajit Ray before we get started with the themes that you have tackled in your book? So maybe you can say something about Ray because you knew him, you corresponded with him, and then we will get to the themes.
Yeah, when I was very small, I saw Pathir Panchali. I think about 12 or 13 years old, and I didn't understand anything of the film. I found it very boring, and I came back home. I was wondering what my parents saw in that film, so wonderful and all that, and everybody was talking about it. And they were very disappointed when I told them that I could not understand the film. I didn't say I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't like it, but I didn't understand it. I felt very, very sad because of the two deaths. One is Indra Thakur's death and one was Durga's death. I didn't like the deaths at all because after all, I was very young and I was nourished on a very, very good diet of Hindi films of all kinds. And therefore, this was for me a shock, a culture shock sort of a thing. But later on, I didn't know I was going to be a journalist or anything like that. And then I started really liking his films from the time of Aparajito and Kanchenjunga, especially Aparajito, because that scene still sticks in my mind where the mother is waiting for Opu to come back from the city and he never comes back. And then there is this edited shot where she used to sit under a tree with all the fireflies flitting around her. And then one fine day we find that she's not sitting, but the fireflies are there, the tree is there, which means she is dead. He doesn't show the death. So this point of suggestion, at that time, this kind of suggestion was very rare in Indian cinema. Now, of course, you see a lot of suggestion from good directors. But at that time, this kind of suggestion where you don't show the death, you don't show anybody crying or anything, it struck me very much. I was 18 or 19 years old. And then I saw his Kanchenjunga 3 times. And then I decided to write to him. Now, how would I write to him? So I fetched on, my mother helped me because my mother was a great fan of Satyajit Ray. So she helped me and she was very enterprising. She got me the address and I wrote him in my hand because those days there were no computers or anything. And surprise of surprises, I had given up hope that he'd ever answer. He actually replied writing in his own hand. Even the envelope's address was written in his own hand. I was just blown. I didn't think that I'm just 18 years old doing my economics honors in Ruia College. And Satyajit Ray being such a great person, he was already very famous internationally. Pathir Panchali was over, 4-5 films are over, Kanchenjunga was just done. Then, and I think I corresponded with him. I didn't want to disturb him again and again. 4 or 5 letters we exchanged over a long period of time. And then I stopped and he also stopped. So he made it a point. Later on, very recently, I interviewed his son about his father. And the son said that he insisted on writing the answers of every letter himself. And earlier, he would also post them himself. On the envelope also, he would not allow anybody to write the address on the envelope. He would do it himself. So this, I think, makes him stand apart from other human beings, any human being. Even I don't, we all do it on computers now, we do printouts and all that stuff. But writing in the hand, even on the envelope, when he's such a busy man, as you very rightly said, that there is no such multi-talented director in India, at least. I don't know about the world. I'm not very aware of world cinema. But in India, at least till today, yeah, and all filmmakers will also unanimously agree to this. And he was a very simple man, but the problem to reach him was that he was surrounded by lots of cutlery. As he became more and more famous, there were 2-3 circles of cutlery around him. So it was very difficult to break through that and approach him, especially at film festivals. I went to his house also 2-3 times to borrow a book. for one of my research articles early when I was not a journalist again. And he said, "You don't have the book, you come and collect it from me." So I was flattered. Now, this humility, this groundedness, where do you find it in a person so great? Where do you find it? That also underlines his greatness. And then I didn't keep in touch with him. When I became a journalist, I would go walk up to him during festivals and say, "You are the only person I have not interviewed today other than Ghatak, because Ghatak had passed away already. Minalda I have interviewed at least 20 times. And everybody, Topanda also I had interviewed so many times. Everybody else I had interviewed except him. Even in Bombay cinema, when I was in Bombay, I interviewed everybody from Govind Melani to Shyam Binigal to Ketan Mehta, to everybody. But even Subhash Ghai, the commercial filmmakers also. But never you. I want you. He said, "See, you already know me. What is there to interview me?" So that put me away off. That put me off because I never could really interview him, so I don't have it on record. The only thing I have on record is the letters that he wrote to me, out of which one is lost, and the others are there in this book in the Bengali handwriting. And I translated it inside the text so that the non-Bengali readers would come to know of it. So this was Satyajit Ray. Towards the end, he was very ill, and we were not allowed to meet him, and I didn't want to see him in that state. I've written it also in the book. That tall, towering personality with a booming baritone, wonderful voice, wonderful English, wonderful Bengali, and very talkative, not quiet at all, not aloof. But his greatness made him a little bit distant from common people like you and me. So I didn't want to approach him anymore, and I didn't want to see him in that sad state where he hardly could talk and he was not allowed to meet people, and every day two doctors were attending on him. I didn't want that. So I don't regret that I couldn't meet him in the end. Once I went to meet him during his sickness, I was not allowed. So I felt very bad at that time, definitely. But later on, I understood that the memories I have of him are of a healthy human being and not a very, very sick director who's very sad that he cannot direct anymore and just waiting for his exit from the world. But that would have pained me very much. So now I don't have any problems about. So
Okay.
that's about, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Shobha, for the sketch and personal memories of your encounter with him. I'm sure those letters mean a lot to you, and they'll be very important for any archive to which you give them afterwards. So, should we start on the themes that you have spoken about, and then I'll just introduce the themes, and you can take them up. Fiona, can we have the next slide, please? Now, what Shoma has dealt with 3 or 4 major themes, and one of the first ones that she has dealt with is hunger. Hunger in the films of Satyajit Ray, whether hunger is at the center of his films or on the sidelines of his films. She has taken 3 films, Pather Panchali, Ashani Shanket, and Gopi Ka Bagaban. Now, these 3 films are of very, very different kind. Each of them is different. In fact, the last one, The Adventures of Gopi and Bhaga, is basically a fantasy film meant for children. And the first one and second one are also different. The second one is also set against the Bengal famine of 1943, where I believe close to 3 million people died. Pather Panchali is also a story set in rural Bengal. So maybe you can tell us how you approach these 3 films differently and how you have tackled the theme of hunger differently in these 3 different films.
Let me tell you this, when I thought about this because books were coming out on Shotrita or left, right, and center in every language, as you very rightly said. Now, I have a publisher who is very, very generous to my proposals. Every proposal she said yes. And she also approaches me to ask whether I have something new to give her. So I asked her that, can I do something on Ray? She said, yes, why not? And then I told her that, but then I said, thinking, what will I write? I don't want to write a biography. I'm not at all for biographies. And there are many, many good books written on Ray. It's not that the books are not good. They're excellent. And in so many other languages dealing with, even I myself have written a book on Ray's interpretation of Tagore's novels. I have written one entire book on that, brought out by HarperCollins in 2017. And it dealt with a very unique thing, which I don't want to bring here. Now, then I started thinking on what to strike on. And then it struck me that why not take one theme at a time and go ahead and analyze them through his films? So I thought when I saw Patil Pachali again and Ashwini Shankrit again and Gupika and Bagabain again, I thought, why not hunger? Because the hunger is there in all the three films. And there is a fourth film also, which is He Dr. Raja Deshe, in which also there is hunger, but I missed out that because I had not seen the film at that time. He Dr. Raja Deshe is about a very autocratic leader, like Hitler-like leader who used to suppress his people and not allow children to go to school. And there's a school teacher who revolts against it. In that, there is a song sung Koto Rongo Dakhaili Amare, what colors you have shown us, God, where the people are left absolutely hungry, and here the king and the ministers are enjoying a grand feast. But this was pointed out to me after the book was published by somebody, and I felt very sad that I've not included it. I'm including it here so that here the people who are listening to me will know that the name of the film is Hirok Rajat Deshi, King of the Diamond Kingdom. So this was authored originally by his grandfather, and then he made it smaller, and he decided to make a film on it. And for Pathir Panchali, I would go back to the subtlety with which he shows hunger. It's not very open. You know, the two children following the sweetmeat seller, when they are going, when he's going to the landlord's house to sell sweets, they know they cannot enjoy the sweets, but they are enjoying that, following that, and a dog also goes along with them, and you can see the reflection in the pond. So that is what hunger is about. Then there's another scene where Opu, you see that it's Opu's birthday, and Opu is being given, you know, this rice pudding, which is in Bengali we call paish, rice pudding on his birthday. But rice pudding is not given to Durga. We are not shown that, but we understand that there's a discrimination between the son and the daughter. But it doesn't matter to Durga because she loves the brother, and it doesn't occur. It was so conditioned. The girls in those days were so conditioned. Even her mother was a subject of that conditioning, that it did not occur to her. And you see a thin layer of cream like a mustache on his just above the lip and between the nose, and you can understand that he has taken that. And every day he says, "My God, again rice." So you can understand the hunger from that. Then the poverty, when the father has gone away to work in the city, and he writes letters from very rarely. There you find that the mother is wearing a very toned sari. Shorgoja is wearing a very toned sari, tattered clothes. And early in the morning, she leaves the house with utensils to be sold, because then only they can buy rice and feed the children. But it is all so quiet that you may not even observe it the first time you watch the film. You will observe it when you see it. And one secret of mine is that I have not studied film appreciation or film studies academically, but I have learned everything I had to learn by watching the films again and again and again. So that is Pathir Pachali for you. And why she used to, you know, there is this scene where they are making, having a fictitious picnic with the girls, and they're cooking something. Now that something, whether it's imaginary or whether they are really cooking, like when we were children, we used to cook rice and dal and all that with dolls, but there was no rice and no dal. We were just imagining that we are cooking something. So whether it was like that or not, we don't know. Then there's another one where she steals raw mangoes and makes some chutney out of it and gives it to her brother, but says, "Don't tell Ma." So this entire concept of stealing, whether it's beads or whether it's half a coconut or whether it's achar or whether it's mango, it's all due to poverty, because she is deprived of every nice thing in the world, and she's a child after all. So she's deprived. Therefore, this hunger, and there is no open show of hunger. Nobody talks about hunger. Nobody says, "Ma, I'm hungry." Nobody, the mother doesn't say, "I don't have money, what to do," and all that, like you generally see. It happens in real life also. It's not that it's only shown in films. So that was what struck me in that. In Oshoni Shankir, based on the 1943 famine of Bengal, it struck me very strongly because it was made in color, and a brother-in-law of mine, he criticized Ray very roundly because he made it in color. He said, "It's a film on famine, why in color?" Then I asked Ray this question once, and he said that I made it in color deliberately to contrast it with the manufactured hunger. The hunger was not because there was no rainfall or agricultural production was less. It was not because of that, but because the British were hoarding the necessary essential commodities like rice and wheat for their old soldiers to be fighting in the war. And therefore, the rice began to disappear from the market completely till there was no rice in this small village where this priest was staying. And the priest was getting everything. He was enjoying everything because he was the only person who can read and write in the whole village. And then he goes to the market and he tries to buy rice. He doesn't get it, but the rice seller, because he's a Brahmin, he has got great respect. He's the only Brahmin, and he takes him behind the shop and says, "Please, I can cook and give you. My daughter will cook for you and you eat, but we cannot give you rice. I'm really in a very bad shape." So, and the daughter is a married daughter, but she's a widow. So she says, "I cannot cook for you because you're a Brahmin. I'm giving you everything and I'm directing you. And this guy cannot cook to save his life." So she directs him to cook, and he cooks. But while eating, he remembers his wife who is pregnant, and she's not getting this food to eat. So he gets stuck. Then the girl tells him that if you want more, please come from the back door, and I'll give you more. Don't worry about that. This is Ashwini Shankit, a completely different picture of hunger, where hunger is manufactured politically by the British rulers. It was not natural. And that is why he said, I wanted to show the contrast that it is manufactured hunger, it's not natural hunger. That is why I made it in color. That the world is bright, but the people are not. And you see that in the end, when this Dalit girl dies of hunger, two things are waiting for him, a dog and a little girl who are waiting for her to die, so that the minute she dies, they'll come and collect the food that is collected on a banana leaf given by the Brahmin's wife. The Brahmin wife doesn't touch her, but he gives her. Now, when she dies of hunger. That is very literally shown that she dies of hunger, but she's a Dalit. So the Brahmin widow cannot touch her. That is one woman. The third woman is that she is so hungry. She's always so hungry. She says, I cannot bear hunger. And therefore she goes away with the brickfield owner to the city. Uh, Suggestively to do prostitution, but she doesn't know that it doesn't make any difference to her because the main reason is to have rice. She said, I'm always very hungry. What can I do? It doesn't matter to me. When the Brahmin's wife tells her, this is not the right thing that you're doing, and I'm not going to take the rice from you. She says, but you cannot imagine my compulsion. This is hunger. And one more, I think, no, that's masculinity.
Just here, Shobha, one question here.
Yeah.
Why does the film have this title, Ashwini Shankit, Distant Thunder? If thunder is the actual famine, then the famine is right there. It's not distant.
No, this is the original name of the novel written by Bibhushan Mukhopadhyay, and he did not change it, like Pathe Panchali. That is the reason. But I think it's also a metaphorical name because you can hear the thunder of hunger from the distance because there's no hunger there. Yeah, I think that's my interpretation. I may be wrong. Yeah. And Gopika in Bhagavan is another beautiful thing. He has said again and again that I made this film because one day my little son came to me and said, Baba, why don't you make films for children? All your films are for grown-up people, and where are the films for me? So he decided to make this film, but according to me, it's a very political film which adults can enjoy in one way and children can enjoy in another way. There's a lot of magic in it, and there's a lot of fun in it. And these two guys, one gifted by the Bhutka Raja for playing the drums, and the other one is gifted with a wonderful singing voice where he couldn't sing to save his life, and he's thrown out. Both of them are thrown out of the village because of their music. Become magical singers and magical drum players. So there, what happens is this horrible king. The twin brother twins. One is good, one is bad. The horrible king, Hundi. One is Hundi, one is Shundi. Hundi is the bad one. And he keeps these entire soldiers absolutely hungry. Everybody is hungry. So I don't know how these people get the idea. This Gopi and Baga, very foolish villagers, very innocent villagers, but no intelligence at all. It suddenly strikes them that let us drop food, lovely sweets. let it fall in rain, and they take help of the moon to drop rasgullas, huge rasgullas. Ray has gone to every length to get those huge rasgullas. You don't get them in the market normally. Huge rasgullas and gulab jamuns and all kinds of fruits. So they all forget the war and they jump at that. And even the Raja of Hundi, He's like a child. He's a mentally a little bit retarded, and that retardation is fleshed out, pushed by the bad king. He's the original king, and that one is the minister. So the minute he opens his eyes, he finds his hand is full of handi of rasgullas. And he jumpingly goes away. He doesn't look at anybody. He just goes on eating the rasgullas. And suddenly he finds that he is in the courtroom of Shundi, the Hundi, the good king. So their hunger is treated very differently. That actually it's an anti-war film. Anti-war film in the sense that for no reason they are going out at war and they're not fit to fight a war. They have no practice in fighting a war. They have arms and ammunition, but not good ones. You will find even the camels and the elephants. They are also very thin. They are starved. They're not able to rise up and stand also properly. So how will they fight a war? So it is a political statement against hunger and against war. Also, both these things. So that is why it struck me. So if you see it today also, you will find that there is an adult reading to it and there is a child reading to it. So who can do this kind of work? And Gopigan Bhagavan was written by his grandfather, Upendra Kishore Roy Chaudhary, who was also a very famous person. He invented the print, several kinds of prints. He went to England. He comes from a very aristocratic family. There's another right side to him. His father was very famous. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Then we come to the next one.
Okay. So now should we move to the next theme, Shoma? The next theme that you have dealt with is masculinity. You've dealt with it at some length. Can we have the slide? Yes. In this chapter, you deal with 4 films. Parash Pathar, I think that is Philosopher's Stone. Pratidwandi, which is the adversary. Nayak, which is hero. And Sadgati, which is deliverance. You've dealt with these 4. Now, the idea of masculinity, which springs to people's minds, is something that comes from Hindi commercial cinema, which is not at all the case in Satyajit Ray. It's not a question of having, showing off bare bodies or having men fight or make them macho or something. His idea, your idea of masculinity that you have drawn from these films is something very different. In Parish Pathar, you speak about a stone which turns everything into gold. In The Adversary, you speak about a young man who's caught up in social unrest. In Nayak, you speak about a man who's going on a train to get an award, and he meets a woman to whom he, just speaks about everything that has happened in his life. And the last and the most bitterly sad and ironical is Sadgati, which is deliverance, which is about a Dalit man who wants to get his daughter married and what he has to do at the end. So can you tell us how Ray has actually, what your idea of masculinity comes out of the films that you have spoken about in your chapter?
Yeah, the best, the most outstanding, and there's the other in this masculinity or in Ray's films, because generally, as you very rightly said, we have a very monolithic idea of masculinity, which is always ascribed to the strength, to the physicality of man, which is very wrong. Not to the human spirit of man, not to the humanity in men. It's always alluding to the physicality, like Sylvester Stallone, and most of our ideas are borrowed from Hollywood films, as you will agree. Either it has to be Gregory Peck of the 50s and 60s, very handsome, super handsome, or it has to relate to Clark Gable, who was very masculine in his looks, not as handsome as Gregory Peck. Then Tony Curtis. Then in later days, Sylvester Stallone. They are supposed to be the icons of masculinity, which has been borrowed especially by Bollywood to a large extent. And even other heroes in Tamil cinema, in Malayalam cinema, even in Bengali cinema to some extent, Uttam Kumar was not good at fighting, but he was made to do fighting scenes because that was what was expected of the hero, or even of the villain. The villain also had to be equally strong in order to fight the hero. But Ray, of course, he has chosen his stories with great care. And in each story, you find a different perspective on masculinity, and your entire perspective on masculinity changes because of that. You don't put it in a monolithic way. In Parash Pathar, he's an old man. So what do you find masculine in him? And he made him a clerk, where in the original film he was something else. Yeah, he's a bank clerk, I think, in this one. and he finds this stone, and the stone changes his life. But when the stone disappears from his life, again he goes back to the same
I
old
think you
person.
just need to tell, people what this stone is and how exactly it's used and what happens with this stone.
Oh, the stone in Parash Pathar means stone, means it's like King Midas, touching whatever he touches turns to gold. Now here the stone is like that. You know, you whatever when you touch the stone to any object which is metallic, it will turn to stone. So there are some small statues of soldiers, British soldiers, on his table, on this Paresh Babu's table, and he touches that with the stone, and immediately they turn to gold. So that is also read as a satire on the British government at that time. And of course, we are shown an independent India, and the story is by a very, very famous humor writer, satire writer. I forget his name right now, but a very, very famous writer. And there, whatever he does, he first gives it to the neighboring boy, little boy, as a toy. But then the boy takes it as a toy. So the boy's perspective is of a toy. He doesn't know that it has this quality. Even Paresh Babu does not know that it has this quality. But he suddenly discovers through the boy that it turns everything into gold. So his whole life changes because of that. But when he is invited to a party, he shows because he is now elite. He is counted among the elite. So he's invited to an elite party, and he does not. He sees that he doesn't really belong to him, belong to that group at all. And in a drunken state, he lets out that he has this stone, and the whole thing breaks. He's not supposed to tell anybody. He had promised his wife not to tell anybody. They are a middle-aged couple, not having any children, very happy life. And the price of gold falls, and all the poor people who had hidden gold under the earth and in pots and all that, they all bring it out because gold now has no value. So that is also touched upon. The share market crashes. Everything happens because of this, and nobody can understand why this is happening. And then it comes out, and what happens is Paresh Babu is not very happy with what happens, and suddenly his secretary is ditched by his girlfriend, and he swallows that stone. All right, and they take him to the hospital, and they think he's going to die. But the stone died. He digests the stone completely. You know, it dissolves into nothing in his stomach. You can see it in the X-ray plate, and it's a fun thing. You know, it's fun and it's also sad, and it's very satiric. You know,
And
he's a
where is the
starving at that.
masculinity? Where does masculinity come into this?
No, no, I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying that he is a man maybe in his late 50s. So we don't contact a person who is in his late 50s with a paunch and walking very slowly and falling down on the rain. So he is masculine because he is really a very, very good, essentially good human being. He is trying to save his secretary who has swallowed his very precious stone. He had not decided to dispose of the stone or anything, but a Marwadi guy comes and tells him, I'll give you 10 lakhs, I'll give you 1 lakh. He says, no, nothing doing. I said that on, I don't know any secret, and I said it in a drunken state. So his kindness, in spite of all that richness, he's very happy when he loses everything. That is what struck me as what is masculine in him. He
Okay.
is a man and he loves his wife very much. Wife is also elderly, and they're a very happy couple. And he becomes even happier when he loses all that. That is the best part. And the wealth doesn't change him in any way. He's the same Paresh Babu as he was before he was wealthy, as he was when he becomes wealthy. And when he loses all that wealth, he's even happier. So that is what struck me as this is another picture of masculinity, another perspective on masculinity. And that is what struck me, that why not strike on the different kinds of masculinity that are projected in his films. I have taken only 4 films, but I could have taken more. But the editor gave me a constriction that the book should not be very thick or anything. Then Protip Dondi, the question that arises in Protip Dondi means the adversary. Who is the adversary? Is the city of Calcutta the adversary at that time when nobody was getting jobs? Educated people were forced to go out and do something else, or his brother had turned into an Naxal, and whether the brother died or not, we see it in the dream scene. We are not very sure.
Was this during the Naxalite movement? Was this during the Naxalite movement?
Yeah. It's in the 70s. It's in the 70s. It's based on a novel by Sunil Gangopadhyay. Yeah, he's one of the best contemporary writers in Bengali literature. Very, very famous. If he would have lived, he would have won that big award, Gyanpith, but he is not alive anymore, sadly. So the hero He's constantly facing the city as an adversary. He's doing his medicine. He has to give up his medicine because his father suddenly dies of a heart attack. So he gives up his medicine, and he's also has to sell some books on medicine which his brother gave him. His brother said I had to sell so much.
Shoma, may I just interrupt you here for a minute? There's a
Yeah,
request that you speak a
I
little
know.
slower. Your
Slowly. Okay.
speed is very
Yeah.
great. Okay,
Yeah, I know. I'm very, very fast in
you're
talking.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, no.
So his brother takes to the Naxalite movement. The sister takes up a job which he suspects has some compromise built into it, but it is not necessarily true that there's a compromise. He goes to the boss's house to shoot him down. He doesn't have a revolver. Also, he imagines that scene. Gone to the boss's house, but the girl, he's the only unemployed person in the home, and the mother is constantly weeping and weeping and weeping, very weepy mother. But finally he takes up the job. He fights out at an interview where there are lines and queues made to wait in a suffocating waiting room because the original office is being renovated, so they are made to wait in a corridor, and most of the people are standing, and one sitting boy faints. And then this guy gets in and says, what stupid question you're asking me? Why don't you give us some space to sit? He's asked what is the weight of the moon and all stupid questions like that because they don't want to give him a job. It's very obvious. The film doesn't say that, but we can understand it. And he marches out. He has a friendship with a girl also, but later on we don't. He's not very serious about anything in life. That is his kind of masculinity. He's a kind of a failure who cannot live up to his own expectation. He doesn't have any ambition. His only ambition is to get a job at any cost, and he doesn't get it. And so he goes to a small town and takes up the job of medical representative. Now there he hears a bird call which reminds him of his childhood. That nostalgia of childhood, which was full of innocence and lacking in politics and lacking in any kind of materialism. That is what there the film ends. But in the original story, the hero had died, but he changes it and he changes it beautifully. I think Ray has changed it slightly, and he only see that he is listening to the bird cry. He was searching for that bird cry right through the film everywhere, but he couldn't because he didn't know the name of the bird also. And now you can, if you remember Aparna Shane's Paroma, there is similar attachment to a bird call, if you remember right.
Hmm.
So yeah, not bird call, name of a flower. Yeah, name of a flower. She couldn't remember the name of the flower. And here that small nostalgia, it awakens him. It doesn't awaken him necessarily to any positive statement or to become a career-minded one. Nothing like that. It ends there. The film ends there, and this guy's story also ends there. It's beautiful. It's another perspective of masculinity.
Wow.
And Nayok, of course, Satyajit himself said, Nayok is a film on Uttam Kumar, by Uttam Kumar, of Uttam Kumar, you can say. If you have seen the film, you'll remember how
I've
beautiful
seen
he
it.
is.
Yes.
Yeah. And the train is not a train at all. It's art direction. The beautiful art direction by Dulal Shorkar, I think his name was. Beautiful art direction. It's not a moving train at all. It's a stationary train. And the moving part is brought in later on. And here, when Shapita was asked that why did you take Uttam Kumar, he said that my God, I didn't have to tell him anything at all. He just knew the story, and he used to take out tricks from out of his sleeve, which I never imagined he would take out. Such a beautiful performance. I am mesmerized by Uttam Kumar's performance in Nayok, where he's actually a hero in Bengali films, a top star. And recently his three films have flopped. He was a top star, but his three films have flopped. So what happens to him? He's very uncertain about the future. And then he sees this young editor of a women's magazine in the train, where she's not awestruck by him. She doesn't even see, hardly seen his films. She's not starstruck. She's only interested in getting funding for her women's magazine, and that is why she's going to Delhi. And he is going to Delhi by train because his secretary does not get a air ticket. So there, the question is answered where you might ask, why is such a big hero traveling by Rajdhani? So that is why he's traveling. And this lady, of course, is traveling because she cannot afford to go by air. And there, everybody is awestruck by him except this girl. So he feels a pull toward the girl, and she says, "Can I interview you?" So he says, "Okay." And then when he pours out his entire story, life story, later on, after he's not drunk, he got drunk and he told her everything. And then when he's not drunk, he says, now you're going to print all this or what? She says, no, 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 I'll not print all this. I'll keep it in my mind. And then she tears off the entire sheets. And that is the end of the story. And when the train arrives in Delhi, he is garlanded and the huge crowd is around him, and the girl is going away with her uncle or somebody. And he looks at her, but she doesn't look back because her chapter is over. So this is the real masculine hero, which we imagine in films to be. But in this film, Ray has underscored the tragedy of being a top hero. That all the time he's uncertain about. Then there is a rumor about his. There's a gossip. He's not married. There's a gossip about him and a girl he gave a break to. And the girl is married and her husband comes and beats her up. That's shown in a dream scene. And another thing I want to tell about Ray is the two dream scenes or the three dream scenes in the film are absolute, what do you say, hair-raising dreams, if you remember them. Hair-raising. One is about the mound of notes and the telephones that he keeps on seeing. These are the kinds of dreams that he gets. And even the mother-daughter pair in the compartment in which he's traveling, the mother-daughter pair both have a crush on him. The girl is very small, and the mother takes out a mirror and looks at her face and then combs her hair and all to keep herself prepared when this hero is going to come. So this is the idealistic, or the, let us say, molded or sculpted image of the hero as we imagine in cinema. And Uttam Kumar was already a top hero at that time in Bengali cinema. So when he played Nayok, he played it to the hilt and he made a wonderful job of it.
So it's actually a real and real which come together.
Yeah, real and the real come together. Yeah, you put it very nicely.
Yeah.
Then there is this Sadgati, Premchand's story. Premchand, of course, we are all familiar with, and according to me, I think he is the best Hindi author who could write so beautifully on small things in human life. And this is not necessarily on Dalit. It comes out that he is a Dalit, but it is actually on the Brahmanistic attitudes towards the Dalit. And the irony of it is when this guy dies, simply because he has fever, and this Brahmin guy, who he has come to seek only the date in the horoscope for his daughter's marriage, he makes him do all kinds of work under the hot sun without giving him any food, and the guy just falls and dies. Now the problem is, because he's a Brahmin, he's not able to touch that untouchable, and the other untouchables will not touch him because they're very angry with the Brahmin. They just pass by, but they don't even look at the dead body. And this Brahmin is made to tie his feet with a rope and drag him along to wherever he's dragged along. Whether he's cremated or not is also not shown. Whether they are cremated or not is also, we do not know. So this is Sadgati, which is another very, very timid way of, underlining the hierarchy in masculinity between a rich, powerful Brahmin in a remote Indian village and oppressed, poor Dalit person who wants to get his daughter married. And the only reason he comes to the Brahmin's house is to get a correct date for the marriage. That's all. And this is what happens.
It's quite a horrific story. I mean, images in this are very horrific. I haven't seen anything in Satyajit Ray like this before.
No. And the bourgeois people said he was very, very bourgeois and he was anti-communist and all that. But if you read between the lines, he was not anti-communist. He may not have been a communist per se, but he always thought about the people. If you see Gupi Gain Bagabain, if you see Pratit Dondi, if you see Shodgoti, even if you see Polish Pathar, you'll find that he has a liking for the common struggling man. Because he was also at one time a common struggling man. The huge struggle he had to undergo just to make Pathir Panchali has formed so many books by themselves. So many books, not just one.
Shobha, you move to the next one because we have two other subjects. So I'll move to femininity, if you don't mind. Since
I don't mind.
The other. And you say that according to Ray, conventional narratives, conventional stories are complicit in projecting the woman as subordinate. In conventional narratives, a woman is subordinate. Now it is up to the creative vision or the creative imagination of the director to use these conventional forms and to present another view of women, another dynamic, another positive view of women. So Ray has done this in film after film without ever glorifying women as such.
Yeah, he is reverted. He's converted the entire the thing that you just said, that a woman is a woman, but he has completely reversed the whole argument about femininity being weaker than man. All
Yeah,
right, and he is not going to say that she's very strong. Also, she's stronger than man. He's not making a. He's not trying to make any feminist statement, or he's not making any and patriarchal statement against women or for men. And the best part is, I forgot to say in the earlier part, what everybody talks about it these days is that you hardly find any villains in his films. You
yeah,
know,
you don't.
yeah, all are very normal, all are very normal human beings. And if they behave abnormally, it is because the circumstances force them to. Like in Baby, for example. I'll talk about Baby now. Yeah,
Yes,
the first
please.
one is Baby. Yeah. Now, Baby, I was
If
struck
you
by.
just give for 2 minutes, just tell our audience what Devi is about so that they
Yeah,
know.
Devi.
Yeah,
Devi is
very simple
based
story, but
on, yeah,
complexity.
on a short story by Prabhat Kumar Mukherjee, who was a famous writer during that time. But there are stories going that it is Satyajit Ray who gave him the idea of the story. Now, how far that is true, we do not know, because Prabhat Kumar Mukherjee was himself a very famous classic writer of short stories and novels. Of course, he is no more. And I think some people say no, it is true, because Satyajit Ray was belonged to the Brahmo community, which was a breakaway from
Yeah,
Brahmins. And the Brahmins were very cruel towards their women, absolutely cruel. So Ramohan Roy broke away, and some others like Debendranath Thakur, Rabindranath Tagore's father, he also broke away from the Brahmin community, and they formed the Brahmo community, to which Ray also belongs. All right. And whether he was a very strict Brahmo or not, we do not know. But they could, he did not give his name to the story, probably because he expected some backlash from the Brahmins at that time. He expected. Now we don't know what is true. In Devi, the story is about widower, old widower, who is a big, big Kali Bhakta. And every day there's a huge Kali Puja. He's a Zamindar also, so he's very rich. And there's a Kali temple in his house. And every day he goes on worshipping that Kali. And everybody goes around him doing his service for that Kali. And there are crowds of people coming in. He has two sons. The elder son hardly does anything. He has a wife and he has a small child. And the younger son brings a wife, and that is Devi. This girl, her name is Doyamoi. Very strangely, Doyamoi means kindness personified. So, ironically, the original name is only Doyamoi in the story. And one night he dreams that the Kali has become a woman, and that woman is no other than his younger daughter-in-law. So the very next day, he comes and falls at her feet, and she's terrified that why is my father-in-law falling at my feet? And she is terrified of the whole business, and she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't run. She's only 15 years old, and her husband is studying law in the city, and the husband has given her 50 envelopes addressed to him to write letters to every day. She knows to read and write, and she's very beautiful. And now she's put on a pedestal as a devi. Now you can see that during the whole day we never see her eating anything. During the whole day, all worshippers are coming and they believe her to have magical powers, because after all, she's a goddess. And she also begins to believe that she's really a goddess. So when her husband comes to rescue her, she says she agrees in the beginning to run away with him to the city, but then she says, suppose I am really a devi, then won't the devi get angry with you for doing this to me, for taking me away? And she falls there and she dies. That is the story. And but there is a foreign critic who very clearly, very clearly in lucid words said that she could smell some incestuous attraction towards the daughter-in-law by the father-in-law. Now this would have been scandalizing if you wrote that in India at that time. But when I see the film again and again, I see that maybe that is true, because he asks her questions which a father-in-law at that time would never ask a daughter-in-law. That does he love you? What letters does he write to you and all that? He has no right to ask her that question, is a different matter. But in those days, it was unimaginable, because the daughter-in-law never used to speak also to the father-in-law. She also doesn't speak. So, and then he segregates her from the husband. The husband is packed off to Calcutta as soon as possible. So she has no sex relationship with the husband, and she is put on a pedestal as a devi. And finally, it turns out that she is not a devi after all, because a child she touches does not come back to life. Her sister-in-law's son is very sick, and the old fellow is so very superstitious that he does not allow a doctor to come in. She calls the doctor. The elder sister-in-law is very rational, so
So
he
where does her femininity lie here? She's put on a pedestal. She's made into a devi, and finally, because she's unable to
This is
cure a
one,
child,
no, I'm showing images of femininity in Ray's film. So this is one image which
yeah,
till today has not been shown. It is not a glorification of the Devi image. Again, it reverts the whole image of a Devi is actually a human being. Have you ever seen a Devi? We worship her, all right. We are very committed to Devis and all that, but does she really exist in real life? So this question that arises when this girl is 15, she's so convinced that she herself has doubts of whether she is really a Devi or not. She says this word, Ami Jodi Devi Hoi. What if I am a Devi? She asks her husband, and she falls dead there. She falls away and she collapses and she dies. Why should she die? Why should she die? Because of the long, arduous journey through this whole Devi thing. We never see her eating. So who gives her food to eat? When does she eat at all? I mentioned that in my thing also. So that is the femininity in her is that kind of femininity which belongs to the 19th century, where a woman did not even know that she is being abused. And even if she came, by the time she came to know that she is being abused and tortured, it's too late. She
mm,
doesn't even know. And this girl
yeah.
doesn't even realize that she says, whatever my father-in-law says, I have to do that. If I'm a Devi, he thinks I'm a Devi, I am a Devi, maybe I'm a Devi. And then she starts believing that she is really a Devi because one boy comes back to life. He has pox or something, and the father brings him in long queue. You can see the long queue standing outside the house of this thing. And we don't see the father-in-law anymore. So
Okay.
he collapses, Yeah. This,
Can we move to
Mahat,
Mahanagar? Can we
yeah,
move
of
to
course.
Mahanagar? I wanted to ask you something about Mahanagar, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
also a film where you speak about femininity.
yeah.
And you show a wife, you begin by showing a wife in a conventional role, but then
Yeah.
you say you've given it a Marxist reading, a feminist reading, and a sociological reading, and
Hmm.
probably what's going on in the woman's mind is, who is she supposed to please? That is a question that goes on in her mind. Should she please her husband? Should she please her in-laws? Should she please her child? Should she please her boss? Who exactly? And then what is interesting is that you speak about something very cinematic, of shots and scenes that bring out ambiguity and contradiction, where images transform one meaning into another meaning through light, through mirror reflections, through windows which offer a glimpse of the cityscape. I found that very interesting, and I thought maybe you should comment on that.
Yeah, about Mahanagar, it is a story, again, it is a story written by Narendranath Mitra, who was one of the very famous post-Pythagorean writers in Bengali literature. But what Ray did was very surprising. He changed the story where the husband was the protagonist. He made the wife the protagonist, and that
Yes.
changed the entire perspective of the entire film. So Aruti is a very nice daughter-in-law covering her head and taking tea to her father-in-law, who is a retired teacher. You can see Raja Rammohan Roy's photograph there, and very idealistic person. But he doesn't think twice before going to his students to ask for a pair of spectacles or ask for donation. Ex-students who are now very successful. He doesn't feel that. But if his daughter-in-law, when he goes to work, he gets very angry. He doesn't touch this oranges she brings and all in the beginning, of course. And the mother-in-law can only weep because she knows that the son is really in trouble and there is no choice. So the mother-in-law is slightly more progressive than the father-in-law. So there's another picture here. The mother-in-law accepts it. She serves food to the son and daughter-in-law both together in the morning because they're going out to office. But she wipes her tear, as we can see, as she goes inside to fetch food from the kitchen. So she's sad about it because she cannot accept that when my son is not is in real trouble, the daughter-in-law has to go to work. Because that is her conservative mind of thinking. But she's better than the husband. The husband is very arrogant and very proud to touch her daughter-in-law's money. He's against it. The father-in-law, I'm sorry, and the husband is for it because he says, "All right, she's doing it." He doesn't say no. But if you remember right, that she asks her the spelling of her name because she has never written her name properly any time. She's educated, she knows English. That is how she landed a job. But both the times she asks, "How do you spell Mojumdar? Do you spell it with J or do you spell it with Z?" So that is a very telling point. But once she gets into the job, she begins to enjoy the job. She really begins to enjoy the job, and she enjoys the change that is bringing inside her, with the friends, with the jokes with the colleagues, then the good and bad experiences while she's going and selling knitting machines from door to door. In one door there are lots of dogs and she gets scared. In another door the boss tries to play indecent and she runs away. They flee away and all this, and it gives her a certain kind of sense of independence, if I can say, but she hides it. It's clandestine because when the Anglo-Indian friend gives her a stick of lipstick which is new, she says it's not used. I am giving it to you. She's very surprised and she's pleased and she's also hesitant about it. And then but she puts on the lipstick when she gets into the lift of the office, and she takes it out when she comes home before she enters the home, because she knows that the conservative family might not look up on it.
Yeah.
So the lipstick plays a very important role in this film, and I was surprised that a male director like Satyajit Ray could put it so beautifully. Because when the husband wants to take out some money from her purse and give the dhobi or somebody the money,
He
he
sees
sees
the
the
lipstick.
lipstick and he realizes that she is using the lipstick clandestinely.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he says, "Oh, you're wearing lipstick these days." And she just takes the lipstick from her hand and throws it out. Why does she throw it out? It is her rebellion. That if I'm wearing a lipstick, why are you asking me? A girl today would not throw it out. She would put it in front of him again. All right, but this was made in 1965, 66. So obviously she throws it away because she does not want any conflict. And only the end I find a little bit difficult. And her friendship with the Anglo-Indian girl.
Yeah, it
So
is little, yeah.
yeah, that bonding I loved very much because they are unequal in terms of community, faith, morality. If, as the boss says that she's an immoral woman, why should you assume that she's an when she's so efficient? Why are you removing her from the job, or why are you taking her, giving her not a raise? Just because she has taken leave when she is sick, you don't believe she's sick. She was going out with a boyfriend. The boss assumes that an Anglo-Indian woman is only of loose moral. So that is also touched upon. That is also touched upon, and that angers Arati very much. And then the husband also, you find the reaction in the husband also, that how he reacts when the wife begins to enjoy the job. He doesn't like it very much. He slyly goes into the restaurant where she's chatting with her friend's husband and fibbing also that my husband is into exports business and all that, and he's hiding behind his newspaper and trying to eavesdrop. So that is another picture of masculinity, if you want to put it that way. And this is also uh, look into
We just go to
femininity.
Charulata very quickly because Charulata was, I think, one of Ray's favorite films. And
Yeah,
it's a film that is both simple and sophisticated. And he
yeah,
enjoyed making this film very much.
yeah.
Can you speak about the cinematic version because it's based on a Tagore story? So can you talk about the literary version and the change in the cinematic version?
The literary version, in the literary version, the husband finally goes away, to Chennai, Madras, or wherever. And in the, she says, "Can I come with you?" Then he says, "Oh, you want to come with me?" And she says, "Thak, let it be." She doesn't go. And there the story ends. So there is no reconciliation. But here, he has frozen the scene there. So we don't really know what happens. Is the relationship frozen? Is the story frozen? Are the characters frozen? So what? So that reconciliation doesn't really take place. It doesn't take place in the original story also. And the original story I read long back, so I don't remember very clearly. But it is very clear that this Charu's writing and all is there. And Amol can understand that in this film, his name is Apurbo. He can understand that this Satyendra is getting attracted to him. And he is not at all attracted. He's scared that any kind of furthering the relationship will be betrayal of his cousin brother's trust in him. So he runs away. So he's an escapist. And the husband also runs away. When he realizes that the wife was in love with Kamal, he simply sits in this horse-drawn car and he cries in the car itself, carriage. So she has more courage than they have. They are both
Yeah.
escapists in their own way, but she has more courage. And whether the job gives her the courage or whether it is an inner courage which is there already in her, like the other girl, Mondakini, who is unlettered and who is only playing with that kaleidoscope all the time, or very happy looking at the church clock or the church tower from the terrace. She says, "Have you seen the church? You can see the clock on the church tower." And it doesn't surprise her at all because she's educated. She writes. She's fond of writing. She's fond of reading. But the reading and writing also differ. You know, the husband is all bringing out a paper which caters to the British ideology, and she is writing everything about her nostalgia, about a childhood. So there is this gender discrimination about writing and reading. Even Amol's writing is very dry, and her writing is full of nostalgia, childhood memories, beautiful. So the better magazine takes her article, and the lesser magazine takes Amol's article. There is a
Hmm.
pointer over there. I have pointed it out, and of course, Charulata is his favorite film and my favorite film too. And
Ah.
there are minor materialistic objects like the clock, for example. You see that the clock is very late and the husband has not come and she's waiting and waiting and waiting. Then the slippers. She begins to embroider the slippers for the husband, but she gives it to Amol. And then Amol leaves it behind and goes away. And she sees after Amol has left that the slippers are still there. These are tiny things which you indicate. Then when Bhupati falls in trouble because his brother-in-law has stolen everything and gone away, he comes to to collect payment from Sonar, from a goldsmith. And the goldsmith, when he leaves, he says that he has taken the payments and gone away, your brother-in-law. So he's very sad and he turns back. And the goldsmith says under his breath, "Why doesn't he sell the gold stick? That would get rid of all his problems." You know, because the stick is has a gold cap, gold head. So I think there are some tiny, tiny things in Charulata which escape your sight. You go on, we have this habit of concentrating on the characters and the relationships, but these are small, small, tiny, tiny things. For example, the pan. You know, she makes a pan and she tells Mandakini that you don't make the pan for Amol. Okay, I'll make the pan because you put too much of tuna in it, so it becomes bitter. That is, she gets scared. She has to have this proprietorial possessiveness about Amol because she has fallen in love and she realizes that she has fallen in love and she's not ashamed of it and she's not guilty about it also. That is why she breaks into tears when she sees the wedding card. But Bhupati, instead of facing her face to face, coming face to face and say, "What's your problem? Why are you crying?" He runs away. Same thing, Amol, when he realizes that lady is very attracted to me, he runs away. So the men are shown as big escapists when they have fallen into crisis. But she is not an escapist. That's about Charula. And beautiful things, the
Yeah.
very good.
Shoma, we'll just go quickly into, because we're past our time, just
Yeah,
very
yeah,
briefly into the idea of prostitution. And you have
yeah,
spoken about prostitution in three films. What you say is that there is a common thread that connects these films, in the sense that prostitution has evolved organically as an integral and unavoidable act in the progression of society, which is dotted with greed, lust, consumerism, and corruption. So, what is
yeah.
that common thread?
My
It is
whole
organic
idea.
in society, as you say. What is the common thread?
What I wanted to show is, you see, the heading is mainstreaming of what prostitution.
Yes,
Generally, prostitution is a business which is allotted to certain areas of the city, red light
right.
areas as we call them, whether it is Delhi or Bombay. In Bombay, we have Faras Road, which is no longer exists. Then in Calcutta, we have Shonagachi, which is said to be the largest red light area in the whole of Asia. That is what I've heard. I've never been there. And yeah, no, you could be there for investigation and all that, but they are very closed door people. They don't like to give interviews. One of my documentary filmmakers told me that they're very, very scared and they're controlled by a controlling society which looks after their funds. It's an NGO, but I have very questionable. I have many questions about them. They're trying to control the finances. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to live in Shonagachi to be a prostitute. You can, your next door neighbor can be a prostitute if the need arises to be a prostitute. And some of them have no moral, no moral issues about being in prostitution. They think that if it is necessary, I'll do it, and if I want to, I will do it. And many a time it becomes a choice. For example, in Protidwandi, I think, isn't it? No, in Jana Arona. Let me take Jana Arona first. In Jana Arona, what happens is this guy is getting an order from a client of his who says that my wife is completely bedridden and I cannot have sex with her, so I want a girl. Then you will get the order. He doesn't want money or anything or cut or anything. He says, I want a girl. So he goes to fetch a girl and he finds that when the agent takes him to different areas, he finds at one place there is this a tuition a coaching class has become a red light area in the evening. After the coaching classes are over, in the evening it becomes a waiting room for prostitutes from good families, maybe lower middle class, but from good families. And there he discovers his friend's sister. His very close friend's sister. The friend is driving a taxi now because he could not get a job. So it is also a hint on the unemployment situation and what happens. And the girl refuses to recognize him completely. And then when he says he realizes and he says, I'll turn the taxi around and let us go back. She says, why? Because it will be a loss for you and it will be a loss for me. Let us go ahead. And she goes ahead. In another place, she finds that the husband is prostituting his wife. And he draws the rules. It's a middle class family and the wife is very beautiful. And the husband says, no. You came back yesterday very late and tomorrow you have another appointment. So today you can't go at all. So they go away from there, the agent and this hero. And then before that, they go to another lady living in a very posh area, Park Street, in a beautiful flat with separate rooms and all that. And she has two daughters, and both of the two daughters, she is happy prostituting them. So she laments that one of the daughters was she had sent to Singapore with one of her clients, and the client started prostituting her in Singapore. But she has no qualms about putting they ask him that what to do with the other girl. Can you lend the other girl? So she very smilingly says, no other girl because she's with a customer now. She won't come out now. And then they find that her standard of living has gone up. She's got a piano in the house. She's got a dog Alsatian in the house, and the standard of living has gone up like anything. So these are the three phases of mainstreaming prostitution that I saw in Arjuna, and I was not only I was shocked, and this guy doesn't like it at all. The hero doesn't like all this thing, but he's forced to do it. So I want to ask the question: is he not also prostituting himself by becoming an agent? He is reduced to a pimp. Yeah, he is reduced to a pimp, but he has no choice. Otherwise, he'll have no job. And in Protidwandi, you see that nurse, she moonlights as a prostitute. Nobody is forcing her to do prostitution. We don't know about her house condition, whether the nursing thing is, and let me give you an idea about what happened when this was released in Calcutta first time. The entire Bengal Nursing Service Union nurses made a big sit-down strike in front of Bijoli Cinema because this girl was wearing a WBNS badge on her uniform. WBNS is West Bengal Nursing Service. But when I saw the film again, I couldn't see it. Whether they removed it later or not, I don't know. So there was a big sit down, but nothing happened. Ultimately, I think it was removed. And she is very particular. She takes the money and she says she undresses, she smokes and all. She has no compunctions about being a prostitute part-time, and full-time she's a nurse. So whether she is doing it out to earn extra money for herself or whether she has family liabilities, we do not know. And in Ashwini Shanket, I already explained to you earlier that she did it because she cannot go hungry. So these are the three phases where we see, even today you will see that prostitution does not necessarily belong to a particular neighborhood or locality. It is not earmarked. Anybody can be a prostitute these days. Anybody can be,
Okay, I think we've gone beyond our time, Soma. I just want to thank you for bringing out aspects of Ray which might have missed, which we may have missed when we saw the film, and it's not limited to one film, but film after film. So thank you very much for bringing that out. For those who don't know, we've spoken about Ray and cinema, but Ray also did other things like he brought out children's magazines, books, he was an illustrator, he wrote on science fiction, he designed book covers, he did graphic design, title cards, posters. So he actually was truly, truly multifaceted in so many ways, Now, I just want to ask anyone if they have questions. Otherwise, I think now that we're past 7:15 and more than 1 hour, we could end. But if anyone has any questions to ask of you, I throw the floor open to anyone who may wish to ask.
Yes, Latika. I mean, and Soma, this was phenomenal.
Thank
I
you.
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you so
I,
much.
of course, don't know very much about Satyajit Ray, but I realized that what little I have seen of him, I have not read into it enough. So
Yeah.
this was a bit of an eye opener. It told me a lot of things I didn't know, but of course, through it all the various topics and the various angles that you have talked about, ultimately,
Thank
I
you
have
so
to
much.
say the subtlety, the subtlety of Ray. I mean, he doesn't
Very
hit you
subtle.
on the head with anything, does he?
No,
Thank you.
no.
So,
Thank you. Thank you.
And
fabulous,
this
fabulous.
Pathet Panjali, by the way, is regarded as one of the greatest films uh, worldwide. And Ray is regarded as one of the greatest directors worldwide. One of the greatest would mean one among the first 10, 15, something like that in the world. So we are dealing
Yes.
with an exceptional filmmaker.
So I'll
Who
just say one
didn't?
thing very quickly. I want to appreciate Shoma Chatterjee's scholarship in this area. How much you know about it.
Thank you so much.
How wonderful to be able to have you here and to listen to you.
Thank you so
And
much. Thank you. I'm
Latika,
honored.
hats off to you
Thank
because
you.
Thank you so
your
much.
knowledge also is so clear, in the way you guided Shoma to give
Thank you so
us,
much.
all this information in a very limited time.
Yeah,
So
it was too short a
kudos
time
to
for
you.
all the information she had, really.
Yes, I mean,
Yes.
I can see that. So thank you so much. And now
Thank
over
you.
to other people. I don't want to hog all the time.
Not at all.
Thank you so
Does anyone have any questions?
May I ask a question,
Yes,
please?
please.
It was a very interesting presentation, I think, that was made. But what I wanted to ask Ms. Chatterjee is that, in Devi, is the major focus on the perils of blind faith rather than the concept of femininity, which dominates the theme of the film?
Hmm. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dangers of blind faith and the horrific consequences to which it leads.
Yes.
Uh,
Good
Yeah,
question.
I would agree with you to a certain extent, but then with blind faith, I do agree with the whole concept of blind faith. But why a woman should be made a
hmm,
victim to that blind faith? Why? A 15-year-old girl, she's not even a woman. And why she has to pay the price for it? And everybody is complicit with that. Everybody except the elder daughter-in-law, but she doesn't have a voice. She doesn't like what is going on, but she has no voice. Even a little boy comes away, he's scared of this the lady with whom he used to play ball and all that when she was all right, when she was normal, and now she's scared. The ball comes into her room where she sits, she takes rest, and she calls the boy, but he doesn't come, he just runs away. And the husband is not made a scapegoat. The husband is just kept made quiet. So he is also an escapist. Why has he to run away? He argues with his husband, with the father, and he goes. A friend of his, who is a classmate in the law class, a friend of his is in love with a widow, and he tells the friend that if your father disagrees to it, I will go and support your case. But what about his own wife? Why doesn't he fight for her? Why doesn't he openly pull her away from the altar? Now, all this we are thinking now, but the story was written in 1800 and something. So that time, why should a woman pay the price of blind faith? That
Could
what
it
is
be?
my
Could it
well,
question. So
be?
where the
because of the
femininity comes
context,
in.
yeah, could it be because of the context of Devi worship in Bengal? So, because in Bengal, Devi worship, the Shakti
Yeah,
worship,
yeah,
the
yeah.
major,
No, I
why it
think
was
it is
depicted
too
like
internalized. It was too internalized. At that time, especially, it
that.
was too internalized, and the internalization included the women also. They
Mhm.
would also be scared about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Could it
I,
be
I,
that the father-in-law had kind of sexual feelings towards his daughter-in-law, and since he couldn't do anything about it, he made her into a victim, a kind of perverse
no,
mentality.
I don't think
It is
that's
not
No,
mind.
no,
It
it's
is
no,
not
this
no,
is
all
a
the
no,
foreign.
marketing. That's an interesting concept, but no, it's
no.
not
No,
part of
but
the film
no,
in
and
any way.
a foreign critic made this mention. So it struck me, when I saw the film again, it struck me because she was pressing his feet, and he was asking her all kinds of questions with no father-in-law at that time would ask. I mean, the father-in-law and the daughter-in-law had no conversation at all. I remember when my mother did not talk to my grandfather because that was not the done thing, and we were a very modern progressive family in spite of that. That was when I was young. I'm talking about when I was young. So imagine this was 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago.
Mhm.
So that is the whole problem. That is what I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anyone?
Yeah, I have one.
Anything
Thank you
else?
so
Anyone else?
much.
No?
Hi, I would like to speak.
Yes?
Amitabh Malik is there.
Yes.
And
What's your name?
my name is Mohua.
Mahua. Yes. Go ahead, Mahua.
Yes, thank you so much. This was absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm a huge fan. And I think, next time when we have another conversation, we
Yeah,
should
okay.
talk about the relationship in Pather Panchali of Pishi and Sharbujaya. Because I think there were two women who were, wishing to be there for one
Yeah,
another.
yeah.
It would be very interesting.
Yes,
it would be very interesting to have that.
The interpersonal relationships between women and how we are guided with the conditioning. And hats off, Latika, and hats off, Soma. This is one of the most amazing and riveting conversation for me for my Sunday. And it is amazing because I just love Ray. Thank you so very much.
Please buy the book then. Please buy the book. Buy
Absolutely,
the
I
book and
will.
read it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we need to have a conversation also about Aparna Sen and her protagonists. And
Yeah.
again, they were all women.
As a director more.
As a director. Yes.
As a director, and how, she really was so ahead of her times when she spoke about infidelity, she spoke about loneliness, or all of those issues, relationship between an estranged daughter-in-law and her mother-in-law. And this was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes.
My question is about Jhalshaghar. So, I mean, ma'am, why did you leave out Jhalshaghar under the theme of masculinity? If I could
Yeah, I
know.
saw that question before. I'm very sorry. I couldn't because I have not studied that film to that extent. I didn't have a good print. And when Jhalshaghar was first released, I was too young and I stayed in Bombay. So not all Kshatriya Jai films were available in Bombay. So Jhalshaghar, I saw it on YouTube much later, but a very bad print. So I didn't think, and it was more, that should have been here, but you can write a whole book on the masculinity in race films. In fact, I've just chosen a few because my editor says don't make it too unwieldy because nobody is going to buy. You can write a book on each of these sections that I've spoken about, You can write
In
about
fact,
hunger.
I was also missing out family films like Shaka Proshaka and Kanchanjunga.
Gore Baire is another masterpiece.
And Gore Baire.
We've done Gore Baire on this.
I have done it. Gupi Gain Bagabain also I have presented. But yes, I was hoping to have family films as well discussed here. But it was amazing listening to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Over to you, Moini. Over to you.
Amitabh Malik is there.
Yes, Amitabh.
Thank you very much for the very good presentation.
Thank you so much.
I would like just to bring some few observations. I am talking from the Arab world. And in the Arab world, Satyajit Ray, for us, is the filmmaker of the Eastern world against the Western world. We have great filmmaker in the Eastern world, and it is Ray, and it is from India. And I have just few observations about these themes of you presented. I would like to say that Satyajit Ray had a very, very futurist vision of these problem. He was talking like if he was watching or seeing or imagining what was coming in humanity. And these science, for instance, concerning the hungry, it's the way of eating. Even in rich families, when men or women are hungry, the hand and the mouth are working in a very specific science. The same thing concerning the masculinity. and the femininity. It's never completely conceded that the masculinity is here and femininity is here.
Yeah,
There
correct,
is
correct.
all the time a kind of traveling of these science, especially in films like Charulata. You can't say who is really in masculinity and
Yeah,
who
yeah.
is really in femininity. And this is the opening on the future because he is talking about all these modern subjects of gender, of queer, of different science of the masculinity and femininity. And this is absolutely genius. It's so new from a filmmaker who worked in the past. He is very much working about a concept important in the French philosophy of a writer like Roland Barthes concerning the sex. And this concept, it's le neutre, neutrality. I don't know in English if we can translate by neutrality. There is no
Yeah, yeah.
matter of a very specific kind of sexuality, but the meaning of the real sexuality is about neutrality. And again, thank you very much for
Thank you.
talking so well about our great Oriental filmmaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you, woman.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. So I think there are no further questions. We can end the talk today. Thank you so much, Shoma, for having come here and for having
Thank you.
shown your
Thank you.
scholarship. Just normally, naturally, you speak about it as if you were born to do it. So thank you so much. And maybe we'll get you another time for another book. Maybe we'll get
Yeah,
you
new book. Yeah, just to tell you, tell the listeners, my new book has just come out from Primus Books. It is called Through the Lens Brightly. It is about about 9 women directors and 9 films, and how they have represented working women in their films. It's just
Which women directors, Shoma?
I have divided them into 2 parts. In the first part, I break with Aparna Sen's Chaurangi Lane and Kalpana Larini's Rudali. Both are working women. And after that, I have taken all the new ones, like Alankita Srivastava and Rima Kakti, like that, and Gulzar's daughter, like that. So all of them, all of them are working women. So how they are represented? Are the women really empowered? That is what I'm asking.
Good question. Through the films.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay,
thank you everyone for having come and stayed through this 1.5 hours. Thank you very much. We are the wiser for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We certainly are. We certainly are. Thank you, Shoma, and thank you, Latika. I mean, many thanks. I cannot thank you enough. This has been a especially wonderful session. Especially wonderful, especially informative, scintillating, absolutely. And well, that's great. It makes me want to have more sessions on film and more sessions on Satyajit Ray. And maybe it will be very rewarding to watch one movie and then talk about it, in detail.
That would be wonderful. That would be
yes.
wonderful.
So I have been looking forward to that. And Monali has very kindly done 2 movies with us of Satyajit Ray already. And she has promised to do 1 more. So we are looking forward to that.
Who is this you're talking about?
Latika Chatterjee, who spoke, she asked you, she did say, she spoke to you.
She's waving her hand.
The very young girl. The very young girl.
Yes,
very
yes, that's right. Monali, just say hi. So there she
Hello,
is.
ma'am. You've just seen me.
Yes, that is Monali.
Are you based in Calcutta or Pune?
No, I'm based in Ahmedabad. Although I'm based here, but I am a Bengali by literature, by movies, by language, by music, by theater, everything.
Okay, and what are you doing?
Ma'am, I teach in a college. I teach in the oldest college in Gujarat. It's called Gujarat College.
Yeah, but what do you teach? Literature.
English literature.
English literature. Okay, okay. I'm an
She's
economics
one
person.
of
I don't know
us.
how I
She's
came
one
into
of the
this.
biradari that we have here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
thank you,
okay.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
And yes, it has been a long session, but I think a wonderful session. So
Thank
I
you
don't
so
think
much.
anyone is complaining about the length. Thank you
Thank you.
very,
Thank
very much, everybody.
Thank you.